tribute from a brother to a really loved sister, and I thought it was really good.
Do you think it hit the right note?
It did. It moved everybody that was in this crowd that was near me.
Louise, what did you think about what the Earl had to say about the paparazzi, for example?
I thought the likeness he made between Diana, the Greek stories about Diana, the way that she, the huntress, and the way he likened it to that Diana was the hunted. I thought it was a romantic, almost a romantic way of putting it, but it was so plain, and it was so nice, just nice not to hear the fact that he didn't use the word paparazzi. It's nice to hear it in a way which was romantic yet clear. You knew what he meant by it, and you didn't need to hear the horrible word paparazzi or the words press that you always hear in papers in London.
And Judith, if I can ask you, what did you make of what the Earl Spencer had to say about Diana? I think he used the words that she did not need a royal title in the last year of her life to do her job. Do you think he was having a little dig at the royal family?
Maybe, yes, I do think so. I always think it was a great tragedy that her title got taken away from her. But I think, sort of the work she did in her last year entitles her to that a million times over.
And also what he had to say about the princes. I mean, he made it quite clear, didn't he, towards the end of his speech, that he was going and his side of the family were going to maintain contact.
I think this would please many people, because I think one of the things that endeared Diana to people was the fact that she did take her sons to see ordinary people, how they lived, the down and outs, the people who are ill.
Which is generally a massive part of London and living in London. And she wasn't afraid to show it what hundreds of children and people see every day on the streets, but do not ever highlight,
She taught them what it was like to wait in a queue.
Yeah, she did. Take them to, to do normal things with them as well, like take them to the cinema.
Taking them to the amusement.
She wasn't part of the establishment.
There we must leave it, but thank you very much, Marie, Louise and Judith. Thank you. Back to Bernie.
Thank you.
Bernie.
Thank you, Fionnuala. Let's check in now with Martin Savage at Whitehall.
By Earl Spencer touched many people. In fact, it reached them on a very common level. Kathleen, what do you think this will do as far as changes how people view now the media, especially the tabloids?
Well, if it hadn't been for the tabloids, our Di would still be alive today.
You believe that quite
I
firmly?
do believe it. I do believe it. That's all there is to say. She should be here with us, really, shouldn't she?
Do you share that same feeling, Wendy?
I do, really, yes.
Should there be a change now? Do you think people will change as far as what they're interested in? They've always had a strong interest in the royals.
Yes, they have, but there has got to be a change.
Right. Thank you both very much for joining us. Back to you, Bernie.
Okay, thank you very much, Martin Savage. In our London bureau, Ben Pumlet, a biographer who has written so very much, and he's been watching what has been happening. Sir, your thoughts?
My thoughts are that it was a very extremely moving occasion, and I thought that Earl Spencer's speech was exquisitely crafted and struck just the right note. It was not a bland speech. He had some implied criticism, in a sense, for the whole royal establishment, but it was not bitter about the royal family. He did reserve, however, some bitterness, some intense bitterness, for the paparazzi and the media. But I thought it was a beautiful, almost poetic speech in its appraisal of Diana and its recognition of her complexity, as well as of her kindness and compassion.
Mr. Pumlet, how difficult do you suppose it was for Queen Elizabeth to be in Westminster Abbey and to hear some of the words from Mr. Spencer which were quite tart?
I don't think that they were tart. I think that what he was trying to say was that Diana was a very informal person and a very direct and immediate one. And in a sort of way, he was claiming for the next generation the children, the Spencer side of the family. He was saying that they belong to us as well as to the royal family and to the nation. They won't grow up and just be stuffy and remote. I don't think that that was a difficult thing for her to hear. I'm sure she won't feel that. I'm sure she won't feel any resentment. I'm sure her thoughts were those of grief and concern for her grandchildren and indeed for her son.
But how do you suppose his thoughts will go down with the royalists in this country?
I don't think anybody would have any objection to them, actually. I think that what he was saying was not that Diana lacked a sense of duty and lacked a sense of duty to the state, but that there are other sides to life and that those were important. And he was, in a sense, saying the direction in which the monarchy should go. I don't think that that was out of place or exceptional or likely to cause anybody any heartache.
Being a royal biographer, do you think what Earl Spencer said can in any way change this monarchy?
I think his words will be very carefully weighed and considered, just as the Queen's words last night will be weighed and considered. There is a great debate going on, in a sense, about the monarchy. What I think this occasion shows is the extent to which the British people, whether they're right or wrong is another matter, but the extent to which they are attached to and relate to the whole strange royal phenomenon. This is a very royal occasion. It's a very personal occasion as well. The two are combined.
And Britons who've been waiting for hours upon hours along the roadway leading out of London are now having their last opportunity to applaud, to look, to reflect, to salute, and yes, to toss what we see, flowers, which have so scented the air, not only here in London, but throughout this great country. Between London and Northamptonshire, 77 miles. Right now, the hearse bearing the body of Diana, Princess of Wales, is in North London. And Britons who have not seen her are anxiously awaiting the hearse as it moves along rather briskly. Brent Sadler is at Westminster Abbey.
Thanks, Bernie. Well, crowds are still packed around Westminster Abbey and behind in Parliament Square, but many people are now just beginning to slowly return home. No one here could fail to be moved by what they've seen and heard. It was Diana's brother, the Earl Spencer, who gave a moving, extraordinary and courageous tribute to his sister. The Earl touched the raw nerve of the nation and hit on the moral standards of a tabloid press obsessed with Diana throughout her lifetime. The Earl pledged that his family would work tirelessly to help protect Diana's sons, William and Harry, from the kind of media exposure to which their mother faced and endured. The crowds around the Abbey applauded, and they again showed their support when the Earl promised that the Spencer family would spare no efforts in helping the princes face up to life without their mother, a clear signal to the royal family that the Spencers do not want to be shut out. The funeral service and its content was more than a special event. It was an experience we all shared, deeply moving and totally unforgettable. Back to you, Bernie.
Brent, as your friend and colleague, I know you read people very, very well. The contrasts on the faces of the mourners and indeed their body English as they entered Westminster Abbey and as they left.
We saw outside the Abbey while the service was going on, people openly crying, sobbing, shaking with grief. Some people have brought hymn sheets with them and sang along to the hymns, and sang along particularly to the new version of Candle in the Wing, which was sung by Elton John. The scenes around the Abbey were just unforgettable. People stood, watched, listened intently, but it was Earl Spencer's moving tribute to Princess Diana that really did seem to shake up the crowd here, and that's why we saw the responses that we did. Bernie.
Thank you, Brent Sadler. We now continue watching the hearse bearing the coffin of Diana, Princess of Wales, in North London as it proceeds rather briskly now, passing the throngs along the roadway to the sound of heartfelt, genuinely heartfelt applause. All over the world, people are thinking, reflecting on what they've seen and heard that originated here from Westminster Abbey. Among various elements in this exalted ceremony, this exalted send-off for Princess Diana, was Elton John.
Goodbye, England's rose. May you ever grow in our hearts. You are the grace that placed yourselves where lives were torn apart. You called out to our country and you whispered to those in pain, now you belong to heaven, and the stars spell out your name. And it seems to me you lived your life like a candle in the wind, never fading with the sunset when the rain set in. And your footsteps will always fall here along England's greenest hills. Your candles burned out long before your legend ever will. Loveliness we've lost, those empty days without your smile, this torch we'll always carry for our nation's golden child. Even though we try, the truth brings us to tears. All our words cannot express the joy you brought us through the years. And it seems to me you've lived your life like a candle in the wind, never fading with the sunset when the rain set in. And your footsteps will always fall here along England's greenest hills. Your candles burned out long before your legend ever will. Goodbye, England's rose, may you ever grow in our hearts. You were the grace that placed yourselves where lives were torn apart. Goodbye, this road from a country lost without your soul, who missed the wings of your compassion more than you will ever know. And it seems to me you've lived your life like a candle in the wind, never fading with the sunset when the rain set in. And your footsteps will always fall here along England's greenest hills. Your candles burned out long before your legend ever will.
The motorcade now has just entered Motorway 1, and this is the fast corridor to Diana's ancestral home in Northamptonshire. Back outside Buckingham Palace, Richard Blystone.
Hello, Bernie, and here with a bunch of red roses. 2 Californians here for the funeral. Karen Stockman on your right and Lori Dalton, her daughter, on her left. That song we've just been hearing on CNN, you haven't, but you heard it earlier, Candle in the Wind. What do you think of that?
It really touched me. I remember Elton John from many years ago. My daughter went to his concert in Los Angeles, and it touched me that this was about Diana. And my daughter's the same age as Diana.
Lori, what is your reaction?
Well, the song obviously was originally written for Marilyn Monroe, who I didn't really have much of an association with, being she died sort of before I.
Excuse me, I'm going to interrupt you a second.
My apology, Richard. I just wanted to tell our viewers that the cortege stopped briefly to clear from the windshield flowers, however lovingly thrown, which were obstructing the driver's vision. And police authorities along M1 for days have been saying they hope two things would not happen this afternoon. One, that people on the overpasses would not toss flowers, and two, that people in the opposite lane would not stop and turn and look at the cortege as it goes by. Richard, back to you outside Buckingham Palace.
Thanks, Bernie. Laura, you were saying, well, you were not the generation of Marilyn Monroe when that song was written.
No, but I am exactly the same age as Princess Diana, and it just seems so appropriate that that song was rewritten for her. And I think for me that was probably the most moving part of this service today. And it's just been fantastic to be here in a sad, ironic way to participate in this event that's probably the event of the century.
Let's move on to the left. Diane Davidson, you're a Briton.
That's right.
What did having that kind of a song in a service like that mean to you? Do you think it was appropriate? Is it the kind of thing perhaps that the royal family should be doing to update its image these days?
I think it was certainly very appropriate to Diana. Somehow it was very ironic standing in front of Buckingham Palace with the sun shining, where normally people would have happy, smiling faces. And yet, of course, everybody was just moved to tears when that song came on. Even myself, the tears just rolled down our cheeks.
Do you feel that this day did for you what you hoped it would do?
I think so. I actually live in Germany, so I've been following it on the international news, and it was only actually standing here in London that it really hit me. Yeah.
Thank you very much, ladies. Back to you, Bernie.
Thank you, Richard Blystone, outside Buckingham Palace. For all our viewers watching around the world, if for some reason you did not have an opportunity to hear and to see the funeral service for Diana, Princess of Wales, in just a very short while, we're going to replay it in its entirety. I am honored to have next to me someone who knew Princess Diana, and she is a sister of the journalistic cloth. Barbara Amiel is of the Daily Telegraph. Barbara, please bear with me. We're going to pause for just a moment, and when we come back, we want to hear your observation about a difference in generational mourning.
Thank you, Bernie.
Quite welcome. We'll return to London in just a moment. Please do not go away.
Make short work of your work with Corel WordPerfect Suite 8. Loaded with amazing integrated features like the property bar, a powerful toolbar that changes depending on the job. The shadow cursor. Start typing anywhere. Your words will stay put. Corel Central with fully integrated email, scheduling, an address book, internet browser, and much more. Corel WordPerfect Suite 8. Office Suite Excellence.
It's fall, the best time to be planning your spring lawn. When you do, rely on Pennington, the people who make beautiful lawns their business. Pennington's newest lawn seed, EnviroBlend, can be easier on you and it can be easier on the environment. It's low-growing, so it requires less maintenance. And Pennington's exclusive Pencoat coating makes it resistant to disease and insects. Pennington EnviroBlend, awarded the Lawn Institute's seal of approval. For your lawn, depend on Pennington EnviroBlend and new Enviro Shade.
When you have heart disease, you have heart disease for the rest of your life. What you want to do is control blood pressure so that you don't get to the point where you have a heart attack. Blood pressure tends to increase in the morning for everyone. At my company, we have designed a little pill that you take the night before that is actually a micro-engineered osmotic pump. This pill will deliver the drug 5 to 6 hours after it's been taken. The amazing thing is that by the time the patient wakes up, they have the right amount of medicine in their bloodstream. It's almost like this little pill can tell time. What we're trying to do is get more drug where it needs to be, when it needs to be, and make the patient's life more convenient. When I'm working on a program with my team at work and we're making progress on something that's going to have an impact on patients' lives, it's the most wonderful feeling that there is.
It's a first from the dream makers of Disney. Introducing Disney Cruise Line. Imagine combining a Walt Disney World vacation with a magic voyage to our own island in the Bahamas. Call and discover uncharted magic.
Princess Diana is going home. She is on the motorway number 1, M1 as they call it here in Great Britain. Someone who knows her very well, and I use the present tense intentionally, is Barbara Amiel of the Daily Telegraph. You said as you sat down that there is a difference in the way generations mourn.
People like myself, Bernie, grew up after World War II in the 1940s before Diana was born, and we were taught as the Queen was married and then coronated that we grieved privately, that grief was something you did with dignity, rather like an animal who's wounded and goes into the bushes. And there's been a lot of criticism, particularly among the younger people in England, who felt that the royal family didn't express their grief publicly enough. And it was simply, it's a generational difference in how to cope with something very, very tragic. And I think in this service today, the royal family gave the British what they needed. They gave people like me that feeling of privacy, dignity, and splendor in Westminster Abbey. They gave the younger people Elton John, who Diana loved. But Diana had another side to her, too. Her favorite hymn was played in there, and it wasn't an Elton John song. It was I Vow to Thee, My Country. She was a person with a genuine religious streak to her, and more than just what you might call a daytime TV princess, letting it all hang out.
Why do I think that you are convinced that Diana would have simply relished what happened inside Westminster Abbey?
Well, why shouldn't she? She had a relationship with the media and the press in this country which was quite unique. I think it was unfortunate that Earl Spencer, whose grief we can all understand, turned his eulogy into something of a battle cry against the media, because Diana both disliked them, she wanted them with her on Tuesday when she was doing something and looking good, and she didn't want them on Wednesday when she was doing something private. There was this ambivalent relationship, and I think that Diana would have probably rather liked to have seen the editors of some of those tabloids there, and she would have loved the spectacle. She would have loved to have seen the royal family finally opening up their hearts in a way that was very difficult for them, and she would have loved the crowds and the flowers, and it would have been a marvelous day. It's a tragedy that she knew in her heart how much she was loved, but she never lived to see it in actual fact. She never lived to see the royal family come around to her way of doing things.
But wouldn't she have clenched her fist and thrust her arm into the air when her brother said, in effect, my words, not his, there should be a cordon sanitaire around Prince William and Prince Harry? Paparazzi away.
I think that she was a devoted and a very good mother. It is not now an appropriate time to start analyzing Diana's flaws or Diana's ambiguities. Now is the time to grieve and give those children and the family the measure of dignity they want. But I think that she would have had a very ambiguous relationship with the paparazzi and her children. She wouldn't have wanted too much interference, but she would have wanted their development noted by the papers.
Barbara Amiel, Daily Telegraph. And your friend now, coming down M1 here in Great Britain.
We will never have the like again of someone of such glamour, such color, such light, and such life.
When we return, a replay of the funeral of Diana, Princess of Wales.
It's true, isn't it? You guys really are moving?
Yeah.
Well, that's just great.
Well, listen, they have to sell the house first.
So?
Well, selling a house takes time. We'll at least have the whole summer together.
You think? Goodbye. I'll miss you.
Our magazine helps shape your home. We can help sell it, too. Better Homes and Gardens, Real Estate Service.
Let's go! Let's go! Let's go!
At National Car Rental, we believe that when it comes to renting a car, there's really only one place to go. Because at most major airports in America, National gets you in your car and on the road fast. So what are you waiting for? Let's go. National Car Rental.
Just when you get really good at being a baby, boom, you're a kid. Just when you're an expert at being a kid, you're a teenager. And when you've got the whole teenage thing nailed, you're an adult. Wouldn't it be nice to enter a new stage of life as wise as when you leave it? A money agent can help you make the right financial moves now. Because with time, we all get wiser. The trick is to get smart early enough to do you some good.
Summer's great at Ramada.
I love this guy.
Shh. Stay 5 nights and we'll send you one of 30 videos from 20th Century Fox free. Wow!
Quiet.
Hey, I'm working here. Sorry. Get a great room and a 20th Century Fox video. Call 1-800-2-RAMADA. All things being equal,
We're better.
you got it, big guy.
Westminster Abbey on this brightly lit Saturday afternoon. After the funeral services here, as we speak, the hearse carrying the coffin of Diana, Princess of Wales, is moving up M1, going to Northamptonshire, her ancestral home. There are so utterly many pictures to remember. One in particular, you'll recall as the cortege was moving past Buckingham Palace. At one point, we saw Princess William, Princess Harry, in the middle, Diana's brother, Charles, the 9th Earl Spencer, moving behind the coffin, as well as Prince Charles and his father, Prince Charles, the Duke of Edinburgh. Here now, a replay of the funeral. The funeral cortege, entering through the great west door, is now in Westminster Abbey. All are standing, now moving slowly past the tomb of the unknown soldier once they step off. Next.
Next is the bidding prayer, when the Dean of Westminster, the Very Reverend Dr. Wesley Carr, will invite the congregation to join together in prayer to give thanks for the life of Diana, Princess of Wales.
We are gathered here in Westminster Abbey to give thanks for the life of Diana, Princess of Wales, to commend her soul to Almighty God, and to seek his comfort for all who mourn. We particularly pray for God's restoring peace and loving presence with her children, the Princes William and Harry, and all her family. In her life, Diana profoundly influenced this nation and the world. Although a princess, she was someone for whom, from afar, we dared to feel affection, and by whom we were all intrigued. She kept company with kings and queens, with princes and presidents. But especially we remember her humane concerns and how she met individuals and made them feel significant. In her death, she commands the sympathy of millions. Whatever our beliefs and faith, let us with thanksgiving remember her life and enjoyment of it. Let us rededicate to God the work of those many charities that she supported. Let us commit ourselves anew to caring for others. And let us offer to him and for his service our own mortality and vulnerability.
You are watching a tape replay of Princess Diana's funeral. Her sisters read poems, her brother spoke with thundering eloquence, and Elton John sang. When we return, we will hear them.
Sunday, they are commandos armed with cameras. Their targets, the rich and famous. Who are these photographers who have come to be called the paparazzi? Impact Sunday.
The news came out that morning. I must have tried my broker 3 times.
Hi, your call is important to me.
Now the clock's ticking, the market's open, and the stock I wanted is on fire. Maybe somebody made some money, but it wasn't me.
At Schwab, you can get the team of experts you need, whenever you need them, and still save on commissions. Call 1-800-4-SCHWAB now.
I come across this German software firm, but I'm shooting blind. I've got a stale quote, no research, and my broker's dark for another 10 hours. Sure, they'll get me stuff in the morning, exactly 43 minutes before Frankfurt closes.
Schwab is open all night for quotes, research, and news. Is your broker? Call 1-800-4-SCHWAB now.
Why do I feel like I'm 2 steps behind the game?
Please leave your name and number.
Maybe somebody made some money, but it wasn't me.
Don't wait to get the edge you need. Call now for your free Standard & Poor's stock screens and get trading the way it should be.
This is CNN.
In the frozen Arctic, the harshest place on Earth, summer is brief. As the sun returns, life stirs again. That's when Pete Jess, bush pilot, polar veteran, and a Land's End customer, took our squall jacket for a tryout spin.
We get 30-knot winds up here. It'll freeze you in a hurry.
Not with the squall jacket on duty. It has an outer shell of 3-ply supplex nylon, not 2-ply like some.
It stops the wind, it just plain stops it.
And now we've discovered a way to give it 10 times the water resistance of an ordinary supplex jacket. Yet it's breathable, comfortable, and lined with Polartec 300. A fleece warm as wool, but much lighter.
In the Arctic, staying warm is everything.
The Land's End Squall Jacket. PHS recommends it warmly. Land's End Direct Merchants. For a free copy of our catalog, call 1-800-LANDS END.
Turn to headline news anytime for a fast-paced 30-minute update of the world. That's the CNN Headline News Guarantee. A whole day's news in a half hour, guaranteed.
If I should die and leave you here a while, be not like others, sore undone, who keep long vigils by the silent dust and weep. For my sake, turn again to life and smile, nerving thy heart and trembling hand to do something to comfort other hearts than thine. Complete these dear unfinished tasks of mine, and I, perchance, may therein comfort you.
de morte eterna in die illa tremenda.
Time is too slow for those who wait, too swift for those who fear, too long for those who grieve, too short for those who rejoice. But for those who love, time is eternity.
Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, and have not love, I am become as sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains and have not love, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned and have not love, it profiteth me nothing. Love suffereth long and is kind. Love envieth not, love vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up, doth not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil, rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth. Beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Love never faileth. But whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away. When I was a child, I spake as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now, we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known. And now abideth faith, hope, love, these three, but the greatest of these is love.
Goodbye, England's rose. May you ever grow in our hearts. You are the grace that placed yourselves where lives were torn apart. You called out to our country and you whispered to those in pain. Now you belong to heaven and the stars spell out your name. And it seems to me you lived your life like a candle in the wind, never fading with the sunset when the rain set in. And your footsteps will always fall here along England's greenest hills. Your candles burned out long before your legend ever will. Loveliness we've lost, those empty days without your smile. This torch we'll always carry for our nation's golden child. Even though we try, the truth brings us to tears. All our words cannot express the joy you've brought us through the years. And it seems to me you've lived your life like a candle in the wind, sunset, when the rain set in, and your footsteps will always fall here along England's greenest hills. Your candles burned out long before your legend ever will. Goodbye, England's rose. May you ever grow in our hearts. You were the grace that placed yourselves where lives were torn apart. Goodbye, English road, from a country lost without your soul, who missed the wings of your compassion more than you will ever know. And it seems to me you've lived your life like a candle in the wind, never fading with the sunset when the rain set in. And your footsteps will always fall here along England's greenest hills. Your candles burned out long before your legend ever will.
This is a tape replay of the funeral of Diana, Princess of Wales. Her brother, Earl Spencer, delivered a tribute.